Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Amol Takalkar, the president of IASNM, and supporting me here on this Thai episode is Chitra Saxena, our dynamic vice president for IASNM, as well as Dr. Khushbu Gupta, the IASNM secretary. And as a part of IASNM's mission to promote the exchange of knowledge, ideas, expertise amongst the nuclear medicine professionals in the US as well as in India, IASNM has launched this Chai with Scintillating Stars webcast series. We've been doing this for a couple of years back with the aim of bringing to our audience inspiring interviews from well-known physicians, leaders, and pioneers in our field, our beloved field of nuclear medicine and molecular imaging, not only from the US, but from India and across the globe as well. And just to hear from them, their journey and their life experiences and inspire the younger and mid-career professionals. So we have a fantastic and a very able person to interview today with our Chai. Chitra is going to introduce the scintillating star for today. Chitra.
Thank you, Amol. It is truly my privilege and an honor to introduce an inspirational, gifted, visionary, and compassionate physician global leader in field of nuclear medicine, Dr. Munir Ghesani. He is the chief of nuclear medicine and molecular imaging at Mount Sinai Health System, an associate professor of radiology at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. He's also a current president of Society of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging. In the greater nuclear medicine community, Dr. Ghesani has served as chair and director of American Board of Nuclear Medicine and as president of American College of Nuclear Medicine. In 2020, he won the ACNM Personal Best Mentor of the Year Award. He has published numerous publications. His approximately 88 peer-reviewed journal articles and a book, Nuclear Medicine, a case-based approach. He has chaired the SNMMI Government Relation Committee and the SNMMI FDA Task Force, and he served as the Advocacy Domain Chair for the SNMMI Value Initiative. He was a co-chair of SNMMI Membership Task Force and a member of SNMMI Board of Directors. Dr. Ghesani also held multiple leadership positions in the Greater New York chapter at SNMMI. Dr. Ghesani, welcome to our Chai with Scintillating Stars.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your invitation.
No problem. You have had an astonishing career. Could you kindly tell us about your captivating, successful, passionate journey of nuclear medicine?
Thank you for your kind words and very generous remarks. I appreciate that. The journey of nuclear medicine for me was, I have to admit, it was quite a bit of an accident. And the reason is that I was trained in diagnostic radiology in India, and during my training, and I will date myself, but in early 80s, there was no nuclear medicine system available at my training site. All we had was very non-imaging methods, including the in vitro method. So I didn't have much nuclear medicine background. The only thing that I recall in nuclear medicine background in the residency and in the medical school was the fact that I had done a dissertation paper on MIBG, and that was always in the back of my mind. And you can imagine this was in early 80s, so there was not much in MIBG space even as it is now in terms of I-123 and high specific activity therapeutic options were not there. But nonetheless, I still hold that book with me. And that was one thing that actually took me back to nuclear medicine. But more importantly, the accident that occurred was that I was destined, after doing radiology training in India, in when I came to US and was practicing and training in internal medicine, my ultimate goal was to practice cardiology because I was assigned as a senior resident to select the speakers for cardiology grand rounds. And one of those speakers was Gordon Depuey. And our tradition was that after the grand rounds, we take the speaker out for lunch. And I recall it was a beautiful South Indian restaurant in Jersey City that opened up on that same day where I took Dr. Depuey for lunch. And in that hour of lunch, he asked me several questions about what my career plans were. And in that just hour, he convinced me that nuclear medicine is the way to go. And I went back to my chairman of radiology, who was also a program director of cardiology fellowship. And I said, I'm switching my gears. Of course, it took me several days to discuss it with my family and look at these options. And instead of pursuing cardiology fellowship in Jersey City, I decided to accept the offer from Gordon Depuey to join nuclear medicine. So there was quite a bit of an accident or very stars aligning in a way for me to make a major change in my career from becoming a cardiologist to a practicing nuclear medicine physician.
Wow, an amazing journey, for sure.
That's really an amazing story, and I can actually identify with you, Dr. Ghesani, because I mean, just like you, I didn't have much nuclear medicine exposure in India when I went to med school, and my first overture to nuclear medicine, believe it or not, began with MIBG as well.
Oh, how interesting!
And
What a
that was
coincidence.
at University of Virginia, where I was doing research. It was not in patients; it was in animal models, actually, and I was amazed by the field. So, what a coincidence!
Yeah.
It's an amazing journey. We are very blessed to have you as the president of the Society of Nuclear Medicine and Molecular Imaging at present. It's an honor, especially now that India is the highlight country. But coming to our field per se, you know, right now it's a fantastic time to be in nuclear medicine. The field is exploding. But at the same time, you know, well-trained nuclear medicine professionals are not really available, at least here in the US. And we would like to know what your thoughts are on the roles and responsibilities of various entities like, you know, professional organizations, certainly like SNMMI and ACNM, training programs, the residency and fellowship. And we have a diverse group of training programs in nuclear medicine. The regulatory entities, as well as practices that hire nuclear medicine professionals. What's your take on the diverse roles and responsibilities of all these diverse entities to ensure optimal and appropriate nuclear medicine care in the US by appropriately trained nuclear medicine professionals?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of my top priorities in my term. To really address that. As you probably know that SNMMI has a workforce pipeline initiative, and that's currently being chaired by Dr. Palestra. And we have divided that workforce pipeline into three major buckets. One is for the physician, the second one is for the physicists, radiochemists, radiopharmacists, so all the scientists. And the third one is for the technologist side. And for the physician side, we are working with numerous entities and organizations. I can give you the update on, for example, with ABNM, we have had several meetings within the past year. And we are meeting again during the SNMMI annual meeting, and to see how we can help support increasing the number of residency training programs for nuclear medicine. When you look at the data for ABNM, there was a gradual and prolonged trend for decline over several years. But what is encouraging now is that for the last couple of years, that trend has been reversed. So there are more applicants for the ABNM certifying exam than they were 2 to 3 years ago. So that's clearly an advantage, and it will provide more nuclear medicine professionals to the pipeline in the future. We are also working with several residency training programs that had either closed or decreased their numbers to support them in increasing that number again. And to give that example, the first thing we did was at Mount Sinai, we collected the data, showed how our nuclear medicine volume has increased. Because when you make that application to the GME, the first thing they're going to ask you is, do you have enough volume to support, and do you have enough faculty to train and mentor the residency trainees who are going to increase? So we worked systematically, and with the help of Munir Ghesani, who is our program director, and Anthony Hafez, who is associate program director of nuclear medicine, we successfully reached out to our GME office, and they increased our complement by 50%. At a national level, the other thing I have worked during my year is to open up a new group called TLOG, which is Theranostics Leadership and Organization Group. And in that group, we meet all the section chiefs and leaders of the Theranostics. We meet on a regular basis. There are more than 60 members in that group, and there's a executive subgroup, which is about 9 members. And we systematically help those academic institutions who are interested but need the know-how and support by showing our template and blueprint that we successfully managed to increase our complement at Mount Sinai. What I'm happy to report is that the interest overall has been quite remarkable in these training positions, which I think in turn will increase even further complement in various academic institutions in the country. Because, if you have a training program with only 2 or 3 applicants applying, you don't have that much motivation to increase the number of positions, because you don't have enough applicants as it is. So what is encouraging was that when we increased our complement, we had advertised it, and we got, for 2 positions, we got 53 applications. And many of them are, in fact, of a very diverse group, including several American medical school graduates, which is not something that we historically attracted that group in the past. So I think that, going back to your point about how field of nuclear medicine is exploding, I think it's going to by itself help increasing interest in the applicants, but we can't be complacent and just rely on that. We have to do several things, including what I mentioned was increasing the number of nuclear medicine training applicants and available positions in the country. The other one is also 16-month pathway in radiology. As more and more nuclear medicine goes into the hybrid imaging applications, it is important that we see higher number of radiology residents interested in nuclear medicine, and we are working systematically across the board. At Mount Sinai, our new chairman of radiology, Dr. Ravsky, interestingly, just this morning we had that discussion, and he has made it a top priority. I've campaigned that every time he meets with the radiology residents, that he should put the plug in for 16-month pathway. And at Mount Sinai, on the west side of the hospitals, we were one of the first ones. In fact, the very first program in the country, if I recall it precisely, I think it was 2012, where we opened up the 16-month pathway option. And out of 6 radiology residents who joined the program, 4 of them had signed up for that 16-month pathway. So I think we have to make sure that there are diversity of applicants that come in. There are clearly needs for dedicated nuclear medicine training applicants, but also increasing number of radiology residents should be interested in the 16-month pathway, because nuclear medicine is going to become much more marketable to them than it ever was in the past.
Yeah, interesting. Very good. I mean, I mean, I'm happy that Mount Sinai has found some success. And I think the 16-month pathway has, at least in my opinion, being 50-50. A lot of those residents still go on for some other fellowship, and I think we need to look and see how many of them are actually doing dedicated or predominant nuclear medicine after their second fellowship. Because they might still not be doing or driving the field of theranostics, but that's another discussion. What I would also like to touch upon is not just the physicians, though. I think there's a tech shortage as well. And I think we need to make sure that there are enough qualified technologists. And I think that's not just nuclear medicine right now. Even MR technologists are in scarcity. So we do need to ensure that we work with our technology leadership and make sure that their pipeline is robust as well.
Yeah, and in fact, that reminds me that two things. One, we also have been working with VA, and in fact, VA is so interested in increasing the number of trainees that we might be setting up a pilot with the 10 sites that will have a nuclear oncology fellowship program that will include VAs like where you are, where you can in fact take the advantage of the academic institution and a VA affiliation and provide a very comprehensive training for the nuclear radiology fellows and residents, so that they can feel confident in covering both diagnostic as well as diverse therapeutic options for theranostics in the future. So that's another area that we are working on. And I completely agree about the needs for the technologists and scientists. So our radiochemists and radiopharmacists are working very closely on that initiative, on the workforce pipeline. And for technologists, in fact, many of the initiatives that we are implementing for physicians are templated and copied from what the technologists are doing. So one of the very novel initiative that you will see in Chicago next week is that the technologists group has invited a large number of Chicago high school system students to come and spend a day at SNMMI annual meeting. So they'll get a complimentary registration. They'll get to visit various exhibits, talk to the scientists, the technologists, as well as the exhibitors, and understand the scope of how many opportunities are there for technologists at the current time as well as in the future.
Very innovative thinking. I'm extremely glad they're doing that.
Yeah, credit goes to the technology section for working hard and thinking always outside the box.
Yeah. Absolutely, I would second that, and for sure. So Dr. Ghesani, I know that you definitely have numerous accolades on your CV. I have known you for a long time at a personal, professional level, and as being my mentor in that capacity. And I have learned a lot from you. I am truly awestruck by how you keep in alignment at every level by giving your true self, displaying calm, bounded optimism, and showing empathy to all, especially to your patients. How do you like capture it all? And what is your secret sauce? Can we know about it?
Sure. I mean, first of all, thank you for your very kind and generous remarks. It's, as we always hear, and it's so true, that you cannot accomplish everything by yourself. You need to have a large number of team members who really support. And what I mean by that is it's a team at work, team in your friendship, and team that supports you at home. And that's how it all comes together. So let me give you a couple of examples. When my wife has been extremely supportive of all the initiatives and all the new areas that I have embarked on, including even when I first decided to run for the election, she's wholeheartedly supported me. She, in fact, even gave me a few ideas about how to run the campaign, any help and need that I needed. The campaign was right at the height of the pandemic, so we had to all switch gears, and instead of visiting several chapter meetings and other venues for campaign, we had to turn it all over to a digital and virtual campaign system. And she was helpful right from the get-go. She has supported me with all increasing commitments that I have at work as well as with society. And I can't thank her enough for the way I have received her support, both in logistics, the emotional support, the mental support, all of that has been quite remarkable. Same with my children. They have been extremely supportive in understanding that I have only spent a limited amount of time with them, few and far in between, and they have been very understanding and supportive of that. At work, we have increased our number of faculty members over the last 3-4 years to a large number than it was before, because of primarily our clinical needs that have grown remarkably, both on the diagnostic and therapy side. And all of my faculty and residents, as well as my administrative staff and technologists, have been super understanding, super helpful. Many of them have participated in the SNMMI committees, and both on the technology side as well as on the physician side. So this is my opportunity to really, I can't do this often enough, but this is my opportunity to really thank them for what has come together as a collective achievement. And this is something that they need to be recognized for the support and help that they have provided to me.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Absolutely. It says like it takes a village.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your answer.
It definitely takes a village. So that's very true. And I guess Dr. Ghesani proves the point that, behind every successful man, there's a woman, or
Yeah,
a happy wife is a secret sauce of the happy life.
absolutely.
So switching gears a little bit, we've seen increasing number of some fantastic abstracts and work done in other countries, especially in Asia and Europe, be it novel molecular imaging agents or theranostic applications. And there is a growing sentiment by a significant number of people here in the US that we are kind of lagging in the advances of clinical applications of theranostics and molecular imaging here in the US. And what are your thoughts on this, and what are your suggestions to improve the US competitiveness in this space? I know it's not just one person's or one entity's cup of tea, but thoughts from leaders like you would be helpful in this space.
So that point is very near and dear to my heart. As Chitra mentioned earlier, I was leading the FDA task force and also government relation committee. As part of that, one of the initiatives back in 2014, whenever we were talking to our stakeholders, and that included our scientists and physicians and technologists from various parts of the country, that they expressed some concerns about the regulatory framework and how things are very different in the US compared to other parts of the world. And, we all have heard those remarks until I met with the FDA leadership back in 2013. And I realized that in many ways, it was more of aligning the expectations and roles in the same line, as opposed to having that disconnect where our expectations were different than what the FDA's expectations are when it comes to submitting for any new molecule development or any new IIT or any new project. And so it became obvious at that time that we need to bring everybody on board and on the same platform. I subsequently made a request to the SNMMI Board of Directors that we need to arrange a stakeholders meeting. And FDA gracefully accepted the idea. And that stakeholders meeting took place in October of 2014. And it was a 2-day workshop where we had a breakout sessions, and every group responded back and reported to the larger group on the next day. And we came up with the action items. And what we realized was that once we understood what FDA was expecting from us, it became very clear that there is so much more room for developing the new methods and new molecules. And you have seen over the years some of the results, including the 2 new therapeutic applications that got approved on the radiopharmaceutical space, many new diagnostic agents that got approved over the several years. And this is again our opportunity to thank FDA, who's been extremely supportive of understanding that if they can help us in what the expectations are from the regulatory side, that things become easier. And you've seen some of those results, including some of the new diagnostic molecules were developed well within the US, and even international community has given credit. I was at a meeting in Ghana, which was a warmth meeting. And what was most remarkable was that I was asked to do a presentation. And at the end of my presentation, several known international leaders, in fact, gave due credit to US researchers of how things are turning around over the last few years. And I think, honestly, I think that this is just the beginning. There's a lot of interest in molecule developments. Dr. Wall started this Mars Shot project that has been super successful. And we have already raised close to $4 million. And you will hear next week that all $4 million that have been raised, instead of collecting them in the endowment, we decided that we need to start giving the awards out so that the new developments can be facilitated accordingly. And US will no doubt take a remarkable lead in the next generation of products. Fortunately, also, a lot of industry efforts are underway, and the field is catching the attention of many investors and venture capitalists who are willing to put more and more money into developing the next generation of molecules. So you're absolutely right. Historically, US has been lagging behind, but I can tell you for sure in the coming years, US is going to take a lead internationally in the development of next generation of molecules, both diagnostic and therapeutic ones.
Excellent. Yes. I mean, we've always been at the forefront of the basic science, like the molecules lots of times originated in US labs, but somehow they got implemented faster for various reasons beyond our control in other countries, and we were lagging. But if things change, hopefully, and we've certainly seen a lot of movement. So I'm glad that there are all these things going on and FDA is supporting of it. Glad to
hear. Again, and I would like to send that shout out to the FDA again for explaining to us what exactly are their expectations, so it makes it easier to do things right the first time, so that we don't have to go through repeated cycles of new trials that need to be supported for the development of same molecules. Do things right at the first time. And also in this space, the AI and other new initiatives that are coming up are helping in shortening the cycle from the concept to the approval. So I think that's also very helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Shifting again to leadership. So applying leadership in crisis, as we all know, New York was an epicenter during COVID crisis. Responding to COVID outbreaks and future challenges. What's your take on it, Dr. Ghesani, especially for the leaders? How do we all, as leaders, be at a ready state to face such an unprecedented challenge? Because I remember Mount Sinai helped tremendously initiate that.
Yeah, thank you. This is reviving my memories almost 3.25 years ago when the very first case in New York area was brought to Mount Sinai in early March. I believe it was March 2nd, if I recall it precisely. And things changed very, very quickly. We were one of the hospital systems where it was not uncommon that our census of the admitted patients with COVID-19 exceeded 3,000 in our system. And there are some COVID or any kind of pandemic preparedness measures that people were thinking about, but we all know that there was no appreciation of the scope of the problem that was going to come so quickly and so remarkably that many of us were caught off guard, and we had to start thinking really deep into predicting what kind of measures will need to be taken and where we will come short. So our hospital leadership was constantly in touch with us. Every division chiefs were attending their meetings on a regular basis, in fact, daily basis. We also used to have at least 2 to 3 days. Every 2 to 3 days, we used to have a town hall of the hospital system. And then I initiated this daily huddle through the Zoom every morning at 10 in the morning. And what I would do is that all the morning 8 a.m. would be where the leadership would spread out the guidance. And then at 10 a.m., we would just share that in nuclear medicine. And we started implementing the safe distancing right away. So our huddle that used to take place in person, we instantly converted them into the Zoom format. We started practicing the safe social distancing as well as terminal cleaning. Many of the research and publications on imaging side that occurred came from Mount Sinai, and I'm very thankful to our residents and faculty for coming up with some innovative ideas. For example, one of the things we published was how can you pick up asymptomatic presence of COVID-19, and this was presented at prior annual meetings where we had a Zoom session that I set up for SNMMI under the leadership of one of our chest radiologists who had an experience working in Wuhan back in fact, fall of 2019, before even pandemic came to US. And he was helping them really come up with some critical signs that would indicate where you suspect the COVID-19 asymptomatic infection on chest CT. We did the Zoom session for SNMMI members, and to date, it is one of the highest attended sessions on Zoom. And more than 800 applicants, more than 800 registrations, and more than 700 attendees took participation in that. And we recorded that and made it available offline. Based on that, our residents and faculty came up with some ideas and said, well, why don't we use this to pick up some of the asymptomatic carriers? And so we would have a protocol where any patient who gets a chest CT or SPECT CT, as soon as the CT is done, we look at it right away. And if we find the signs, we put the universal protocol, do a terminal cleaning of that imaging room, inform the patient and the clinician, and do an instant COVID-19 test. And if it is picked up as positive, then patient goes into the isolation. So that's just one of the many publications that occurred. But again, credit goes to the teamwork, the hospital leadership, to guide us into this area based on their experience in management without really prior knowledge of any pandemic, because we all know the previous pandemic occurred 100 years ago and none of us were alive or adult at that time. So it was something that credit goes to those visionary thinkers and leaders who really implemented these plans for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, there was trying times, and thank you for your leadership during those trying times. That was a very inspiring story that you shared, and in times of crisis, these things are very useful. You did mention AI a couple of times earlier, and even looking for this. So speaking about AI a little bit, AI seems to be touching all aspects of life. And it's also touching almost all aspects of healthcare, not just the sections of medicine, but also the delivery models and all that. And it's also touching imaging. So any thoughts on what do you see the impact of AI in radiology in general and nuclear medicine in particular?
Yeah, so in fact, I'm sure you're already aware that SNMMI has an AI task force, and some of the very capable and competent members are leading that charge. And the AI task force is working really hard to integrate some of the benefits and advantages of AI into our clinical practice. And I think over the years, this will grow tremendously. On both diagnostics and therapeutic side. In fact, there are, as you know, there's already a product that's FDA approved for using AI on the diagnostic side. I think that this is just the beginning. Most important area that I see AI playing a remarkable role is in the dosimetry and treatment response assessment of our targeted radiopharmaceutical therapies, because that's one area where there's so much work that needs to be done. So while I'm not minimizing the role of AI in any aspect of nuclear medicine, including even patient scheduling and patient registrations and optimizing the imaging protocol, automatically transporting the patient-related demographics into the report building. We have heard all about how ChatGPT is already preparing the reports. Of course, this is just still a beginning. But while I'm not minimizing the role in every aspect, I think the area where AI will be most critical is going to be in the customizing the patient treatment plans and treatment response assessment and dosimetry and all of those applications.
Yes, I mean, it's just fascinating how AI is rapidly changing and touching imaging. You touched on all the benefits, though. There's also a little bit of skepticism and a perception of a threat of AI. Any 2 cents on that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the example that I gave you on the ChatGPT, not on one hand, it created the reports, but there were a lot of corrections that needed to be made. And there are still shortcomings that need to be revised. We need to be mindful of some of the AI's unintended consequences. For example, we'll have to put a lot of safeguards on protecting the data, because a lot of AI applications occur in the cloud space. So misuse of the AI in some wrong ways, but also safeguarding the data of our patients is going to be critical to make sure that we don't get any adverse impact of increasing role and utilization of AI in our clinical space.
Mhm.
But do you foresee in the near future or not so near future AI completely reading scans?
I don't think so. I think there are so many perceptual and analytic sides of image interpretation and analysis that need to be taken into account. So I'll give you an example of where AI may help. And we use this in our clinical practice on a regular basis. So as you know, nuclear medicine has only a handful of products that are approved. But in general radiology, there are several products. In fact, on our PAC system at Mount Sinai, there are 8 different applications that are currently available. And I think where it will play a role is in improving the patient outcomes. So I'll give you the example. If you have a 20 brain non-contrast CT, and they are ordered in the temporal sequence of when they were done, and first 12 patients don't have any hemorrhage, but the 13th patient has a hemorrhage, and if you're reading your scans based on first in, first out order, you may get to your 13th case after finishing your 12th. But the AI, even though it's imperfect at the moment, if the AI just picks up the fact that there is something suspicious on that 13th case and reorders it in that hierarchy, you still will need to review that scan to confirm and act on it, but at least it reorders them so that you can improve the patient outcomes by minimizing the time between the scan that was performed and communicating that severe and urgent result to the clinician. So that's just one simple analogy that I'm providing, which will expand in nuclear medicine space, but I don't think it will replace a nuclear medicine physician.
Yeah.
Thank you for those thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we are coming up to the last question now. What is your departing warm chai message, which you can share with all? And sadly, your presidency terms end in June 2023. There are many juniors out there who would like to basically be and follow your path. Would you share your success and
so
some ideas?
Coincides with my sip of masala chai, and my
Sorry, I don't have any chai.
right. Cheers with chai.
Cheers
So,
with chai.
My humble request to all of our young and current mid-career as well as advanced career and young professionals and trainees is that we all need to get involved in the organized society work. Anybody is capable of accomplishing and contributing and taking leading roles. And I would encourage that you all, those that are hearing that, please get involved. I know there are some generation stereotypes out there that talk about the new generation is not getting involved in the organized society work. I see the point, but I disagree in large part, because when you look at the nuclear medicine professionals, including our own trainees at Mount Sinai, the ACNM, the SNMMI, young professional groups, it is quite a paradox there where it just does not go with that generational stereotype. We see, and we are fortunate that our professionals in nuclear medicine, on whether it's on technology side, the physician side, or scientist side, that they are getting involved more so than ever before. And we'll need to continue to work together, because what we will accomplish according to that concept would be that what we accomplish as a group will benefit individuals, and what we accomplish as individuals will benefit the group. And when that momentum comes together between the accomplishments of individuals and the group, is where our profession will get even a bigger boost in the coming years. So I highly recommend that no matter how small a capacity, there is a concept of micro-volunteerism as well. You kind of take a small step, you get your feet wet, and you try to understand if this is for you or not. I can guarantee you that if you volunteer for even small steps, you will see tremendous benefits in getting involved more and more. So that would be my message to all those who are listening. And in many ways, it's preaching to the choir, because they are all involved anyway, but those who are not considering, please consider and at least take a small step towards micro-volunteering, and you'll see the benefits.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Ghesani. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation, and Wish you a very successful trip to Chicago and safe travels. Looking forward to celebrating all of our science and achievements and the social networking opportunities at the SNMMI meeting next week. Thank you.
Definitely. All right.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thanks.